So you're saying that the diagnosis itself in 2002 of PSC really affected you first psychologically, just from the shock of it.
Yeah, not knowing how long you have to live.
Yeah, it's like having a grenade, maybe, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ticking bomb. And then all you do is you try to work hard because you feel okay in the beginning stages of it. And then once you start getting, after the 10th year, it starts to take effect.
Would you say that fatigue was the first?
Oh yeah, definitely. I felt I always have to take a nap, and I wouldn't want to because I had an employee. His name is Omar. He was Jamaican. I didn't want him feeling like I was his boss, and he.
But you were his boss.
I was his boss, but I wanted to work equally as hard as he did, and
Why, physically?
I just thought people should be treated equal, and if you can carry a case of soda or beer or something, I can do the same, and I did it because I didn't have a chance, didn't have a chance to go to gym, or I never was really into going to the gym, but it was my exercise, keep myself fit.
Mm-hmm.
And but in that, the fatigue started getting worse, a lot worse. And
what other symptoms do you remember?
fatigue was the biggest one, and then I would say 6 months before moving down here to Florida, 6 months to a year, I would say. I remember starting to feel like my mind, like I was in a haze.
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking into Home Depot, and I always write everything down on my phone, my notepad, and there was something I kept saying, you got to remind yourself you don't have this on your notepad, and for the life of me I couldn't remember what I needed to get.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is you're driving, you notice that your driving starts to be a little impaired, that you feel like you don't have the reaction time that you did before, and that you would start driving slower.
When did your urine turn dark?
That was probably two years ago.
From the bile?
Yeah.
And then you have itching, severe itching all over your body,
Yeah.
especially at night.
Yeah.
And then what about the muscle mass wasting?
Well, I mean, my average weight was 168.
What
my
are you
weight
now?
now is 153, so I lost 15 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little skeletal. It's.
And then jaundice.
Oh, yeah, that's horrible.
Why? Because you feel like weird or something?
Well, just jaundice. You're somewhat embarrassed when you're going into stores, going to the cashier, and you got yellow eyes, and people stare at you, and
So, okay, so anyway, as far as this MELD score situation, do you feel in your heart, knowing as much as you know, that once a PSC patient is into cirrhosis, do you think there should be some kind of a way to even out the score where they're given points, either take the median MELD score in that region and reduce it by 3, or
Well-
some way to even it out with exception points?
Well, again, every individual is different. I mean, one person can have itching, the next person, doesn't have itching. Maybe one person is obese or doesn't have the muscle wasting like I am. But I think what I have, it's very noticeable by all the physicians and doctors. They can see and nurses. The first time I visited the Mayo, she said that you look skeletal on your face, and she mentioned that. She said that, and also my collarbones, she noticed that were protruding.
But you're a numbers guy, so
So I mean, and numbers. When I did come down to the Mayo, I believe I was at a 19. The highest it ever was 21, and they do transplant here at the Mayo at about 25.
That's the average, 25?
Is the average, yeah. So I mean, comparing it, when they say, well, one way you can get exception points is if you get hospitalized. Well, I don't agree with that at all. I think that's risking it. You're risking the patient's life because you're putting them on the spot of saying, when you come into the emergency room, I know you're really sick. Listen, I'm trying to do my best, not only because for my children, 15 and 11, to try to still enjoy doing things with them, going out on the boat and stuff. But I try to keep myself fit, and in the support group that we're with, Second Chance support group from the Mayo, they all tell me, all the post-transplants, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Now, they're giving me the encouragement, but they say you have to stay fit to go into surgery. If you let yourself decline, it's going to be harder for you to recover. And this is what I'm, with the Mayo, the best hospital in the entire world. And I researched every hospital in the United States. How many transplants they've done, what are the success rates on each, transplant program in these hospitals. And I chose the Mayo for that reason.
And they chose you.
And they chose me, yeah. It felt like it was like an interview going to the Mayo. And I loved the doctors, and besides the doctors, you get blood work, and you take your blood work in an hour time, you know what the blood tests are, and or any tests really. So I put all my faith in this one organization, the Mayo Clinic, but yet now they're controlled by another organization, and it's the
UNOS.
United, yeah.
United Network of Organ Sharing.
See, I can't even think of it.
Okay.
It's just my mind goes blank sometimes. All right, so now they're controlled by them, but they should have some form of exception points. All right, this guy's malnutritioned, and his body fat index or whatever it is, that he's below his age group, his weight class,
Mm-hmm.
and that should be a half a point, 0.5. Don't give me even a point. Just give me a half a point on that. And then they look at anything else. Do you have colitis? Okay, well, colitis can it, I can go into colon cancer,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a good possibility. And
Right, you shouldn't be penalized for taking care of yourself.
and that's what I feel that I am being penalized for that. And it's horrible. It's the worst feeling. It's like, well, what's the point? So what do I have to do? I have to check myself into the hospital.
Or you have to have a bleed where you can die.
Yeah. You have
I
to be
know.
close to a coma or death before they say, hey, you know what?
Well, is it part of the
Okay.
problem is because they don't have enough donors? The supply and the demand is higher than the supply?
I don't think that's true. I think they do have enough. But instead of, I'm an O positive, and they can use O positive for A and B. I kind of get the short end of the stick. I can't take A or a B liver.
Right.
So why draw from O liver if if A or B needs it? Well, offer it to okay, if it's worst case scenario and that person in A or B is at a 38 MELD score and they have only a few months to live or a few weeks, well, yeah, they should get it. And
What would you say as far as, you said that people need to look at more than the MELD score to make these determinations, right?
you should look at the different
Because right now,
liver diseases.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. So liver diseases, they need to look at liver diseases and what are the outcomes on these liver diseases for each one. Fatty liver, what is going on with that patient? What is going on with a cancer liver patient? The one thing I'm dumbfounded is someone that has cirrhosis and has abused their body with whether it be drugs or alcohol, and yet they get a liver before me.
if their MELD
They-
is higher.
Well, the MELD is higher, yeah, but first off is the amount of rehab that they had to have, and how do they prove it? They need to prove it through psychiatrist they had to go to, or family referrals, friend referrals.
Well, some people would say you're not allowed, you shouldn't make judgments on different liver diseases, that
Yeah, 'cause
alcoholism is a disease.
It is a disease, but the chances of that alcoholic to fall back into alcohol after a transplant is high, very high. I went to the website and it shows 90% of alcoholics fall back on a bottle. 90%, that's only 10%.
Yeah, but not necessarily after a transplant.
Not necessarily after a transplant. I mean, we can look that up. You can Google anything about it, but
So, but
that's the second cause
yeah.
for transplants. Second cause of transplants. First is fatty liver, and second.
So
is
PSC is
alcohol.
like 3% probably, some small tiny little percent. So since
but
it's a small percent, don't you think that they should take other things more into consideration, like the psychology of the fact that you've had to endure this for 18 years?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
taking into account the whole person, not just the number.
Well, and also
That should go towards your
you know,
score.
Alcoholics, you know, I would, you know, think it's, you know, it's psychological for them too, and it's, you know, to drown out their sorrows and stuff. And a PSCer, we don't fall into, we can't. Our doctors tell us you can't have liquor, and we don't have liquor. You know, we don't drink anything, 'cause it's harmful. And you know, hey, I love sangria, a nice fruity drink with a Spanish meal. And anytime I did have it, years and years ago, I remember my stomach hurting when I had any type of, you know.
Well, I think your
Wine
point.
or
I think your
liquors.
point about ulcerative colitis. You know, also, many PSC patients have that. I think is a big factor that they don't consider in the MELD score. So the things that they don't consider are quality of life issues. It's only how close are you to death. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So I personally think that an alcoholic can only get a transplant if they're at a 30 on a MELD score and up. 30 is the minimum that you can
Why
get
do you
in
think
there.
that?
Give the chances for PSCers and PBCers, because we have a lower MELD score. If we can get up to a 22 and a 24 or 25, you know, if we get that high, here you go. It's a scale. Well, 25, you got an alcoholic. 25, you got a PSCer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this alcoholic can the next day go up to 27. Well, the PSCer is barely hovering at 25. Maybe go down to 21.
Yeah,
3
no,
days
it's
later.
absolutely skewed against.
So and then
Mhm.
what happens? There we go. We get waitlisted again. It's not fair. The system is absolutely not fair. You've got to look at everything
Mm-hmm.
and increase. Listen, you know, an alcoholic did it to themselves. You know?
Well, let's not focus on that because, you know.
Yeah, but it's abusing your body. It's abusing your body. It's like saying, okay, you know what? You're a drug addict. You're into opiates, and you know what? You can do opiates all you and get high and feel, you know, on top of this world. And you know what? At one stage in your life, you might get cirrhosis, and that's okay. You'll get on the list, and more than likely, you'll get a liver right away. Now, the PSCer says, well, okay, I get on the list, but now I have to wait for everyone else to jump in front of me online. Well, hold on a minute. Does waiting times count? Because I've been two years in Montefiore on their waiting list, and then another 10 months here in the Mayo Clinic. So I'm almost 3 years
Right.
waiting for a liver. Now, somebody just got diagnosed maybe 6 months ago, an alcoholic, goes to a rehab for 6 months, jumps in front of me, gets a liver, and goes home fine. So how is that justified?
And the other thing that I don't like is because PSCers are low, if you do get a liver, it's only going to be offered a high risk liver. So you have to take the risk of a high risk liver if you want a liver at all, a cadaver liver, or you have to go with a living donor, which risks 2 people's lives. And we've already heard from a doctor that said what? a cadaver liver is better because of your you can't connect a bile duct, so you still have your bile
Well,
duct,
right?
right?
Dr. Burns said that you can have complications later, and they noticed that there are cancers in the bile ducts
Yep.
that can happen.
So I think, yeah,
So,
we're gonna try to change this for all PSC people, okay? Because this has got to change. The scoring does not reflect how sick you are. The scoring does not reflect how sick you are. It needs to change.